we'll start off by sharing our screen here, showing you some things. So hopefully you're now seeing my Learning Suite screen, and grading starts with assignments and exams because you have to have something to grade in order to do any grading. So we're going to start there with some things, just a few tips that might help you. We all know how to hopefully create an assignment, and you can click new assignment here or new assignment in the specific category. But every assignment has to have a category. You don't have to have any more than one category, but you have to have at least one category for your assignments. And to create a new assignment, you just click new assignment and off you go. We're not going to go through all the steps, but basically the general tab has everything that's required to make that happen, and a couple of things that aren't, well, one thing that isn't required, and that's submitting through BYU Learning Suite. You're not required to do that, but it's there and up front, so it's easy to do. But one thing related to that I did want to show you is for certain assignments, you just want the students to have actually done it, right? It's just, I'm not going to look closely at how detailed students were. I just want them to do it. So one thing you can do, in addition to submitting through BYU Learning Suite, you can actually enable this. Any submission receives full credit automatically. And that way for assignments like, let's say they're doing a reading log or, some other thing like that, you can give them full credit for simply participating in the assignment. In a minute, we'll show you how to do some auto scoring within exams. It's almost just as simple. So that's how that works. Occasionally, you might have a testing center exam, right? Or you may administer an exam in your class using bubble sheets or something like that. Well, another thing you can do is just create an assignment in Learning Suite, have it be an exam, and select testing center. And then if you run some bubble sheets through the testing center to get your exam scored, that will then become a testing center exam that will be here for you to select, and you can import the scores. And if you schedule a regular exam in the testing center, also here at this testing center dropdown, your scheduled exams will be there. You just select the appropriate exam, link it, and scores will automatically come in for the auto scored part of the exam. If you are doing an exam in the testing center where part of it is, say, bubble sheet scored and part of it is open response, then you want to have this part just be the part that's auto scored. And then I typically suggest that you create another assignment for putting in the scores for the written portion that's going to be manually graded. So that's just my recommendation for making that process a little easier. Anything else on testing center stuff, Kirsten, that you can think of? Oh, I do have one other thing.
Oh, yeah.
Here it is. You can administer a Learning Suite exam in the testing center. They have Chromebooks that the students can take the exam on that locks down the browser, but you do not want to use this setup. You would then choose BYU Learning Suite as the exam delivering. You would still schedule an exam with the testing center, but then let them know that you're going to be administering it on Learning Suite. And then you come to exam options and you come to access, and you would, you can put in testing center, and then they'll give you the numbers that you need to put in here to lock down the test to just the computers in the testing center. So
And you can
call them, get that
SIPA
information.
Proctor or Proctorio in the testing center as well.
Well,
So you can
yeah,
do
it
that too.
may be, I mean, maybe duplicit, maybe redundant because it's already proctored in the
Well,
testing center,
it's
but you
kind of
can.
nice because it does, if you're really worried about them going to websites that they shouldn't go to, then Proctorio will lock that down. So
Yeah. And simple proctor won't lock it down, but it'll tell you if they left the testing
if they
environment.
left the test, yeah.
So that's really nice. So I'm going to cancel that because I don't want to get rid of that.
So the question from Darlene is if there's a minimum number of students required in order to have a learning student exam administered at the testing center. I would check with them on that. I actually think that they've lifted a lot of those requirements now that since COVID happened, they are actually at reduced capacity from what they used to be. And so I would contact them. I know that they only have 200 Chromebooks, so they couldn't do super large exams anyways. So I would still give them a call and see what they'll say. But you could proctor them, like some of you maybe in humanities, for instance, and humanities has their own testing lab. And we work with Russell all the time on the exams there, and you can lock the tests down to the humanities testing lab, or I think nursing has one. I think FHSS may have one as well. So if you have any rooms that you want to lock your test down, you can from that same thing. We're getting off topic though. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. So that gives us a little bit of stuff to do as far as like testing center exams. I bring that up during assignments before we get into exams because it is an exam. It's just a different way to look at it. So another thing that you want to be aware of is that, like, for example, we get questions a lot about, well, I'm putting in feedback and I don't want my students to see feedback until I'm done with everybody's feedback or something like that, right? And so the simple answer is, let's say this assignment has some feedback. So all I do is go to the scheduling, and if I know I'm going to be, it's going to be till next Friday till I'm done with the feedback, I can hide the scores until that date. And then when I'm done, oh, was that the assignment? Oh, it's in published, so I couldn't change the date.
Pick one of that isn't in a
Yeah, there we go.
path prevents you from making change.
Oh, this is the one. Yeah, this is the one I did.
Oh, there it is. You knew you'd done one.
Okay, so if I'm ready earlier than that, say Monday the 22nd or what, well, yeah, whatever Monday is, I guess that's the 22nd. 22nd, then I just come in here, I delete out the date. Come on.
We have to have one error in every
yeah.
training.
It's required. It's required by law. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now we know.
We need a clear button. That would make it easier too. But anyway.
Writing it down.
Yeah. So we're in a learning community that works a little bit different than a regular course, so you shouldn't run into that problem. But basically, if it wouldn't save, the other thing you can do, if it won't delete the thing, just come here and just change it to Monday at 11 a.m. and save, and it should be fine. So Anyway, refresh that really quick. So that's come on, there we go. All right, so the next thing is, let's talk about exams, because exams are another important thing to grade. A lot of times people say, hey, I delivered an exam on Learning Suite and the scores are not showing up. Well, that is often the situation where you have a manually scored item in the test and that hasn't been scored. So one way to really easily do that, and also to just grade the exams, is we can come here to the exams tab. I wonder if, okay, there we go. And let's go to this end of term exam. We'll see results. If you go to the results tab, that was under options and results, then I can see which of my students have taken it, how they did initially. This one still has some questions that needs manual scoring, hence it says score now. If I've manually scored everything, then it's going to say view or edit. And if I click that, it'll take me right to where I can score. And in this view, all I can do is score one individual student at a time. And I can scroll through each question, see what they got right and what they got wrong. And this is all fake data anyway. So maybe I give them half credit for that one and save it. Blah, blah, blah. Give them some feedback, save it. So now I can go through and see by student. Now there's other ways to grade exams too. If I come to grades and find that same exam, I'm going to do that over here. So let's say I come to the end of term exam. In the grader, which I open just by, I can click here and say open grader right there. But I've already got it set up here. I can do a couple of things. I can grade by question, or I can select an individual student. So if I come here, I want to see a student's grade, then I can grade their whole exam, right? Or if I go back to this grade by question, then up here, I can switch. There's the matching questions. There's some other questions I can do. Here's everybody's fill in the blank, and I can check those.
And he turned the names off, but you can turn them on, and you can also show the photos. We won't, because this is a real class, but
Yes.
If you want to see their photos while you're grading them, you can turn that on as well.
Yeah.
That doesn't work on grade by question, but
right.
It does when it's the student.
Okay, and so then I can check. Yeah, and let's look at a short.
It's nice when it's a short answer or open response, because then you could grade all the essay questions at the same time.
Yeah.
And you can see everyone's answer to, the essay question at the end.
Yeah, so this is a shorter student response, but it's still an open response question that, of course, I've already graded, but I can see their responses and give them feedback. And here, to be honest, I don't remember. So I gave him a point for being honest. I'm nice like that. So So really it can be quite helpful. And like there's a feature that I wasn't even aware of, that you can download the latest attempt from all students on this question, and that's pretty cool.
Or you can
Anyway,
download the just individual ones
visual
if you
ones,
want.
yeah. Anyway, so that is grading by questions.
And at the top, there is also a checkbox for show ungraded only. Let's say you get 3/4 of the way through it and you have to go home and you can't remember where you left off. Or that's also handy for individual students. Like if you click on one of the students, it won't work on this one because you've graded them all, but every now and then if you are missing a score in the scores book, if the exam score is not showing up in the scores page,
Yeah,
it's because one of your questions is not answered and is not scored. And it's probably an open response or some other sort of manually scored question. And an easy way to find out where that question is to choose question 1 and then choose student. Is this your?
Yeah, this is my live course.
Oh, it's your live course. Okay.
Yeah.
And up at the top, there will be show unanswered questions. Yeah, I don't know if you want to go to your other not real course, but there's a show unanswered. And so if you click that box, then it will just hop to the ones that haven't been scored. I mean, unscored. Yeah. And so that'll save you some time from trying to scroll through and try to figure out which question you didn't score yet.
Okay. All righty. So let's talk some more. I think we're talking exams still. And actually, yeah, we want to go here. Just a minute. Okay. Yeah. So I was on here in exams and show you that let's say I realized that I miskeyed a couple of questions on the test. I could come in here, edit the questions, and then after I've edited the questions, I go back to this results page and I've got an option. Let's see if I can get one that has end of term exam. There we go. Then I can rescore the exam for all the students, and I'll show you another place where you can rescore exams in just a moment. But that's handy if you have to make any changes to some questions or point values or whatever. Okay. So any questions about that? Anyway, this is where I can see I don't think there's enough data here to get any exam. Oh, we do. Okay, so here we have different. I'll show you a better version of this. So if we go into exams here, and go into my, let me pause this for a second.
We're still seeing their names now.
Seeing whose names?
On your file. Oh no, that's mine. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'll resume share. Now I'm loading the actual statistics from my course. And this is the end of term exam so I had varying levels of student success. You can see that 5 students scored between 105 and 108 and so on and so forth. And so we got a couple of A's, a whole bunch of A minuses, B pluses, and so on. for the grades on the exam. And I can see where students were responding. And if I want to see detail on any of this, I can either come down here or to go directly to a question. Let's see one like this, since this has a little option C was correct or marked correct, but most students selected option D. I can go in here, see the detail, and which question was it? There it is. Okay, so then I can see that 75% of my students evaluated this as quadrant 4, and that my better scoring students all did that and whatever. So I might want to consider rekeying that item, right? Well, I don't need to rescore this one because I actually already gave credit to everybody that selected D if they gave a good justification for their answer. So, because I also included a explain your answer box on this one. But this is nice. I can see, oh, look, a vast majority of my students got this one right. There are a few people that answered this differently. Some of these are judgment values, and so I go through and score those manually anyway, even though there's a marked correct answer. Everybody got these right. This one, a lot of people don't know this, so I need to maybe review what the THIEVES acronym stands for a little bit more with my students so they don't miss that question, and so forth. And so I can get a lot of information to help me improve my exams, as well as provide feedback to my students on how they did, and use that data and information as I maybe go over the exam with my students later on, and explain what they got right and what they got wrong and why, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that can be helpful, and we showed you where to rescore. We have a new feature that if you came to the What's New in Learning Suite, that is where exams usually have an open and close date, but we now have a late date or a end date. And so what you can do is come to exam options and enable or allow late submission. So it shows you the due date, and so I want students to be able to take it today. So
It will be out of the semester, so I'll wait.
Yeah. So this isn't a.
This is the problem with teaching in between semesters, because fall isn't here yet and summer's over. So.
Okay, so we'll just come back here and
to the community
on assignments in the community, which will be a little more forgiving. I think I've got a late one already set up, which is this one. So this one was due on the 18th, but my students can still take it because under exam options, I said that they could take it until the 3rd of September. And they get a 10% penalty for every week that it's late. And so we can go over here and see that if I look at, here I am as one of my students, Bob the student. Let's go to exams and we'll see.
Yeah, it has to go to the exams page because it's past due.
Yeah, so here you can see it, and then you can see that they got a 10.8 out of 12 because they lost, because this was taken August 18th, or August 19th, which was after the
by the way, he has this exam set up so that they can take it multiple times. That's why.
Yeah, that's why there's multiple attempts. But if you actually look at his results, he got 2 out of 2, 2 out of 2, 1 out of 1, 1 out of 1, 1 out of 1, 1 out of 2, 2. So he got 100%, but because he took it late, he got the 10% deduction. Okay.
And the late exam works even if you change it afterwards. So if you decide to extend the due date into the late date period and then change the late date, it will calculate it all. So
Right. we won't do that right now for
no,
sake of
but,
time, but
just to let you know that if you decide to extend it, and then exceptions override the late.
the late
So if
penalty.
somebody has an exception to take the exam that's inside the late period, it will not charge them a late fine, a late
Penalty. Yep.
Although we joke about charging late fines, and then we could go to Hawaii for vacations, but
It's true. Okay. So anyway, one thing I do that's helpful as far as grading is I have some assignments where we already talked about any submission gets full credit. This isn't necessarily any submission gets full credit, but let me show you some things I do for certain types of assignments that I have. This is a weekly reflection that I have my students turn in. And so I've got a question, what have you applied over this week and so forth. And so here, if we look at this, oh, that's not the right question. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I have all these wonderful, the question and everything. And then under options, I have checked any response gets full credit. And so I tell them, you'll get credit if you do the assignment for these parts of it. And, but I tell them I reserve the right to change that if I see that you haven't, actually put forth appropriate levels of effort and stuff like that. So I can go in, review it if I want to, and I do want to, that is, but if I miss somebody or something like that, it still gets graded and everything's hunky-dory. Well, then the other half of the assignment, they do a little bit of self-assessment. And so let's look at one of these. Here's one where they self-assess their effort. And so all I've done to create kind of a self-reporting rubric is created multiple choice questions where the varying options are different point values. And so if they say, well, I didn't really give it much thought or effort, and they do that, then they're only going to get 50% of the points, and so on and so forth. So that really saves a lot of time for me. That way is I can collect their self-evaluation and have them kind of score it as they go, right?
And it will require one of them to be correct, but that's just because our system needs a correct answer, but it will still give partial points,
partial credit
for the other responses. And you can do that on regular exams too. If you decide after the fact that, even though option A was the correct answer, people should get half credit for option B, you can actually edit the question in the exam and then rescore, and they'll get partial credit. A lot of people don't realize that you can get partial credit for the other answers.
Yeah, and I've done a similar thing. This doesn't count for a grade, but I have a scale, like a survey scale, where students self-evaluate on Angela Duckworth's grit scale. And so if you look at kind of the expanded view, I have options where it's scored, and then other options where it's reverse scored, and so forth. And then I take an average and actually scale. There's 50 points, but I scale it down to 5. And so they get their grit scale on a 5-point scale based on their answers to these validated questions that Angela Duckworth at Penn, University of Pennsylvania, has already validated for me. That was nice of her. Anyway, so that's an example of something you could do. And again, I don't make this worth, if I look at the thing, I usually have do not include this in the final grade. And then it doesn't count towards their grade. It's just a way for us to check in and see where they are on their grit score, right? So, all right. Did late exams, and reporting rules. Okay, so last thing on exams. You want to be aware, exams like other assignments, you can hide scores until, but you can also, let's just pick one and look at it. So scheduling, you can hide an assignment until, but you can also say, here's what they can see immediately after the exam, and here's what they can see, at a later date. So I know somebody who uses exams, but he's going to administer the same exam in class, only now the students come together in groups and take that exam. So he'll have that turned off and have this date be after class. And so they can't get their results on the exam until after they've come to class, taken the group quiz, and that by that point they already know the right answer to all the questions. So anyway, we'll cancel out there. So that's some stuff to keep in mind. I think we're going pretty well. Okay. So another thing you want to be aware of, and this is on all assignments and stuff, but to help with kind of the grading stuff under assignments, you can have exceptions on specific assignments, right? So let's say here we got this, I could give this group a little bit more time to turn the assignment in, but I can also create course exceptions at an individual. Here, we'll just delete these. I don't think it deletes, it doesn't go in and delete any assignments that have it already applied. But if I add a new exception, I can select a specific student, and let's say she has an exception or a accommodation that allows her, 1.5 times the amount on timed exams. I can just say this applies to exams, and it's only going to apply to an exam that has a time limit anyway. And so I save that, and now I know that my exams are going to be set up for her, and that's going to allow Jane, in this case, a fake student, to take those exams over a longer period of time. If they get an hour, she gets an hour and a half, and so forth. But the other thing I can do is, now there's no sections in this particular Learning Suite community, but if I have combined sections in a course, I can actually differentiate my assignment due dates by section. So I could select a section here, provide them. Let's just pretend group 1 is actually section 1, and I want to change the availability so that their assignments open 4 hours after the other section and 4 hours after that. So that way, because they meet 4 hours earlier in the day at 9 o'clock, as opposed to, I guess that would be 3 o'clock. No, 2 o'clock, 4 hours. All right. I can't even think straight right now. 1 o'clock.
1 or no, 3, no.
10, 11, 12.
1.
Yeah, 1 o'clock. Okay, so they meet at 1, and
One day.
so we're just going to offset everything. Now, somebody did point out in a previous section where we were talking about exceptions that, you know, if you have certain assignments that are due at the same time for all sections, you need to be aware of that and probably go in and delete the exception that it automatically gave to that assignment, or set it up slightly differently to cover the course exception.
In case it goes over midnight, in
Midnight,
case you have midnight as the, well, 11:59 PM as the deadline. And if one section has extra 2 hours, it would go to 2 AM the next day, which shows up on the next day in the calendar, which causes all kinds of problems.
yeah, because then they see, oh,
They think
this
it's
was
the
due at
next
2 a.m.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
they
so
don't see it's due at 2 AM. They see it's due on a certain day, but by then it's already closed. So
yeah, by that point in time,
it's too late.
okay.
And they're calling.
So okay, so that's for individuals, groups, sections, and course-wide exceptions. Of course, you can create an exception and just select all your students, and that would provide a course-wide exception. So okay, let's go to gradebook, and we're going to start with the grader. There's some really great things. So
One of the scoring things that I don't think we covered on the exam editor though, was things like scaling and grade adjusted scores. That's
yeah,
used a lot with curbing.
yeah, I was going to address that with the scores page,
With
but
adjusted scores.
yeah,
Okay.
but that's a good point. I'll just talk about it now really quick. So let's say on this assignment, the top score
It's a 98.
was 98, and so we can
Edit the assignment.
and go to the scoring, and we can say, well, actually we want to base that on 98 points.
But you need to
Save that. And so then 98 now becomes 100%, and the other percentages are adjusted accordingly.
And this is a more fair way to curve your class score up. Some people would have said, oh, we'll just give everybody 2 points, but giving everybody the same amount of points benefits those at the higher end of the scale more than those at the lower end of the scale. So if you change the denominator this way, this does a more proportional. It brings everybody up in equal proportion rather than just a constant number. Because he's going to show you right here where you can add 2 points to everybody's score if you want to.
Yeah.
Which is
but I'm gonna show the grader and some other things. Yeah. So hopefully you all are aware of the grader. Oh shoot, this one doesn't have, student doesn't have a I need an assignment that's been submitted. Okay, I know this one's in. Okay, so when the students submit an assignment, you'll be able to see it here. And of course, you have lots of tools at your disposal. I can select specific parts of the document and then type in some comments. And then all that's going to be viewable to my students. I can come here, feedback. And I can also record video feedback. So I'm not going to, because I've already done that, but I just record it. I can, here we'll record something really quick. Hey, Bob, great job. Way to go. Keep up the good work, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we stop. And then I can rewatch that, make sure I like it. And then I can save it, but I'm going to cancel it because I already have some some feedback that I did earlier. So we'll just keep that. But I've got specific document, text, and video feedback. And I can upload a document. And so like, let's say I download Bob's document, I mark it up. If I don't change the title of it, I can, well, actually I don't, it doesn't matter.
Well,
If
what
I
you can do, you can either upload a file individually here, but we do have a batch upload.
Load.
So if you batch download all of the student submissions and mark them up like you want, if you leave the file name the very same, then under the feedback, you can batch upload the feedback. And to do that, yeah, you click, it's
Yeah.
right up there. Yeah, batch upload. So you can batch upload all of those at one time. So you don't have to go student by student to upload their file.
Yeah. So download it, unzip it,
Edit them.
edit, put your comments in, save it without changing the file name, and
Re-upload.
then zip it back up and upload, and you're good to go. All right.
I don't think you have to zip it. I think you just have to
I think
it as you upload it. Well, I don't know. Can't remember, to be honest. It'll tell you when you click on it.
yeah.
No,
Anyway,
you're right. I think you do have to zip it in.
yeah, I think it is zipped. Anyway, so we have all those ways to show or to provide students feedback. And so Bob comes in now that I've scored his assignment, which one was that? Video feedback. Okay. Video feedback assignment. There it is. He now sees, oh, hello, Bob, great work. Sees the video I did, can see the comments I made directly on his document. And if I had uploaded a feedback file, there would be a link for them to download it. We got the suggestion today, if it's one that's viewable in Learning Suite, can we just have it load in the document viewer, and we're going to look into the feasibility of that. So anyway, so that's important stuff as far as using the grader. Another thing you want to be aware of is that we do have a group scoring assignment so if I look at this assignment, I've come here and I've enabled group scoring, and then I've told Learning Suite which groups are going to be assigned this assignment. And I come into the grader and we'll clear it out. And I can just say, okay, well, everybody gets a 17, and that filters down to everybody. And then I can come here and I can give feedback. Here's the group. So when the students go to see their feedback, every member of the group is going to see that. If I want to give one, an individual student their own I can give Bob his feedback. Close that. And I'll refresh here. That was the group scoring, no rubric. Group scoring, no rubric. Okay. I think that's the one that has the hide score until.
Oh. So go and edit the hide score until. Well, we know it works, right? Yeah. Oh, because it won't change it. Well, change it to yesterday.
Oh, I know. I just need to unpublish the path.
Oh, right. Yeah, there you go.
That's the
ticket.
Okay, unpublish all. Come on. There we go. All right, come on, confirm. There we go. Now I can come back here and change it. And okay, it's still in, but it's not in a, hopefully, because it's not in a published one. Oh, that's not the right one.
Yeah,
It's the group scoring, no rubric.
yeah.
There we go. That's the ticket. Now we can see the feedback.
And by the way, you got to see that it didn't show up until the grades were unhidden.
Yep. And so here's the group feedback. Here's the individual feedback. And if we would have marked up the document and all that kind of stuff, then they would have had that. So questions, concerns, complaints?
There's still
Okay.
a few minutes to show them some of the grading things on the scores page.
Yes, there is. And let me just, oh yeah. That's not, okay, we'll do it here. So few things. One thing we can do is we can enter a default score. So right here, we can say enter default score, and everybody gets 95. And we save it, and boom.
And by the way, that can also be an X. So an X anywhere on the system means that it takes it out of the denominator for the student's grade. So you could even just excuse everybody from it, or a few groups of it. And X can be a score that's entered, and then everyone's excused. And on the student's side, it will show as excused.
Yep. Okay. So
it's also handy if you want to just zero out all of the scores where maybe there's a bunch of kids that haven't turned in their assignment and you want to just add zeros. You can add a default score of 0, and any scores that are already there will, like he's going to do it right now, he's going to enter a default score of 0. And as long as you don't override existing scores, then it's just going to give zeros to the people who didn't hand in. So that's a quick way, rather than going 0 down, 0 down, 0 down, just.
Yeah, and having to find and then accidentally putting in a 0 for somebody who had a score.
Yeah, you just default score 0.
That it's a little.
And you could actually set that in the settings too of the page, so it just automatically does that for all of them. But
yeah,
this is
we're going to show that
if
right
we have
toward
time.
the end. Yeah,
we have 10 minutes.
What we do.
Okay.
This is the fast part.
Okay.
So another thing we can do is if we want to clear all the scores, go okay. And so that clears everything out if we want to rescore it or whatever. So let's say I'm feeling, I say 95 because I was mad. And I realized later it wasn't fair. I can adjust scores and say adjust everybody's score by 5. And then I can limit that so they don't get more than the minimum or maximum. Because I can also do negative numbers here. So I can say I'm feeling mean. Let's take off 5 points off of everybody. Confirm. I can do it again.
And that's not just on ones that we've entered by default. He's just using
he's just doing that to fill scores in quickly. This would be, you could do that on regular scores where they took real exams. It's just that takes a lot of time to pretend to be all those students and fill those scores in. So yeah. So we've showed you, I've just adjusted them again to get everybody to 100%. Everybody's happy, we move on, right? But let's say, I'm gonna redo this, adjust score. No, I don't want to adjust scores yet. I want to default scores and say 100 and override. Okay, so everybody did really poorly on this. And to motivate the students, I said, well, if you do better on the next one, which actually is here, if you do better on it, then I will replace your score on the previous assignment. Well, I go to the one that has the scores that I want to use to replace other assignments. And I can look at this one, and I'll click adjust scores and then replace scores. And I can use this replace lowest score of selected assignments. That is the situation of, let's say I said, okay, we have 2 midterms and a final. And if you do better on the final than you did on either of the 2 midterms, I'll replace your lowest midterm score with your final exam score. Then that's where I would choose this, replace the lowest score of those selected assignments, select the 2 midterm exams, and allow the system to figure out which score gets replaced, right? In this case, I want to replace all scores. And so I'm going to say, here's week 10, 3, and metacognitive reflection. Let's see, that's 7. There we go. So I'm going to replace these 2 with the score at, yeah, I'll just leave it at 100%. But if I wanted to say, you know, you can get 95% of this of your final exam score replaced to replace your midterm, I could do that and bring this down to 95%, right? I'm going to not check that, and I'm going to save. And then we'll see that in this one, it was lower, so it replaced. These ones didn't replace because this was a lower score, but these ones did because they were at 50%. This one didn't replace because 44% and 89 points is not as high as 100. So it figures out what to replace, and everybody's happy. So we'll go back to down here for the next time. Okay. Another thing, let's say students didn't do, you know, a couple of my students didn't do so well on this. Let's dock this person 150 points, you know, a few points. Well, let's do 125. And if I say flag low scores, and I say anything below 70% is low, then
You can click the check
oh,
box.
yeah. There we go. So 70%. I see there's a couple of students. I can notify them right away that, hey, your score is below. But if I don't do it then, I can always come back and email students, and I can select students that scored less than 70 and students who never submitted, or all students on the assignment. So it's just an easy way to do very specific assignment related messages to students. And I shouldn't say message because it's actually email. Okay.
Did you show score history?
Yeah, nope, I haven't yet. So if I want to see how, because we've done email, so open score history, I can see how the scores have changed over time, right? And all the dates and who did that. So in this case, I did all the changes there.
That's handy for if you have different TAs that are grading assignments, or if you have a student who said, I used to have an 89 on this and now I have an 85. You can go into the score history and see if it was changed, and if so, by whom.
Yeah.
And if it was an auto-graded exam, it will say Learning Suite. So.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing, we showed you in exams where you can rescore an exam. If an assignment is an exam, and let's say you've made some changes to the exam and you want to rescore it, or some other thing happened, you can also rescore the exam right from here. And this is also where you open the grader so that like you can grade the assignment and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to not worry about that because we've already showed you the grader. So
by the way, on this screen, I just realized we didn't show, if you on the left button where it says display, you can add different things to this. You can add footers so that it shows you the average score for the assignment, anybody who's missing. So you can add different things. We just give you a default amount, but you could add all kinds of stuff. You can add the section number as a column. Those are footers that he's showing. Homework ID, that's when, if you wanted to send out information to all the students about scores, you could use the homework ID, which is, and it's different for each class. And so it's a way to send information out to the students without actually giving them, like when it was the last 4 digits of our social security numbers.
Yeah,
You
like,
can post things.
so glad we don't do
I
that
know.
anymore.
Back in the day.
So like you could export, and I think,
Yeah, so you could export, the answers for a certain exam or something like that and use that.
oh yeah, here we go. The homework ID,
Homework.
homework ID. So no students will know those. So you'd still be,
Just make sure you delete the net ID column.
yeah, exactly. It's gonna export, but you can easily delete that and use that to quickly post scores or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and if you do export scores, you have a spreadsheet that you can use to create new things and later import scores using a CSV file. It's a really, I don't have one ready to show, but it's a really simple process. You just tell us which one is the student identifier, and then tell us which column needs to go into which assignment, and boom, it's quite an easy process. Let's see. And then the last thing we were going to show you is just on here, you can do things like hide your gradebook from your students. I don't recommend it generally because I think it's good to be transparent as possible, but sometimes students get a little hung up on comparing themselves to other people. So you can either allow or not allow your students to see statistics for their overall grade and specific assignments. And here's where Kirsten talked about being able to automatically zero out unscored assignments. And you can choose how soon after the due date you want that to occur. The caveat is that you have to have at least graded one assignment before that process runs. Otherwise, it will not zero out scores because it'll assume that you haven't done any grading, so you don't want anything zeroed out, and it skips over it.
Because
But
we
be
don't
aware,
want you to get a bunch of phone calls from students who like, I did turn it in.
but be aware that if you don't grade all the assignments by that limit, then that's when you will get the similar kinds of calls from students saying, I turned it in, and you have to tell them, oh, well, it auto zeroed and I hadn't finished grading. And so it gets a little bit of egg on your face. But anyway, that is what we have for you today. And we've hit our time limit. I'll stay around for a couple of minutes if anybody has questions, but otherwise, thank you very much, and appreciate you coming, and hope you got something out of that helps you in your process and makes it a little bit easier for you to know some of the functionality that's there available for you.